Hey guys, it's just Matt here from Henry Shine, just doing another quick video. As there's a few of you guys getting mills with the 3Shape scanners and design software, just figured I'll just run you guys, not necessarily you, but if your staff are going to be designing for you, just wanted to quickly run you through some bits and pieces about crown design, things to look for so that your staff can watch just a 10 to 15 minute video. So in their head, they're like, okay, I've got a rough idea of how I need to design a crown. So the two main things, obviously, are what we call curve of speed and curve of monsoon. So essentially, if I were to eliminate now this one's a little bit out of whack. You can see this is like a zirconia crown that they've had up in here. But essentially, what what you want is you want to have some sort of like a nice straight line that follows the cusps here. It's never going to be you can never stick to that perfectly, because obviously if you bring in the lower, it depends on their smile and where their teeth position are as to whether or not you can actually achieve that. But the main ones are, having a look, we want to try and have the buccal cusps in general lining up. Like you can see how if you were to almost draw a straight line through those, they line up. And then if I were to come in, eliminate that, and we'll look at the lower. And likewise, lingual, sorry. And you can see lingually, like the cusps basically are very similar, very same height. There's like a nice, pretty close to a straight line on that one. So once again, it's relative to what your lower is and the position of where it is and compared to their bite and how much they've been wearing against their other teeth. But that gives you an idea of you want to try and line up those cusps. So buccal cusp, you want to try and line up. Lingual cusps, you want to try and line up. Obviously, you need to set your occlusion correctly. And then the other things to look out for is these areas here and here, which are your marginal ridges. So your marginal ridge, you want to have your marginal ridge line up to basically very similar to what your other teeth either side of it are. So you don't want to have a huge drop off before your marginal ridge or a huge step up. So that's another big factor. So as well as lingual buccal cusps, marginal ridge, making sure your marginal ridges are pretty similar height. And then you want to just basically your buccal or labial surface, you want to try and have that pretty similar profile as what all the other teeth are, likewise on the lingual. Now, you're never going to be able to do that perfectly every single time, because obviously it depends on if their teeth are rotated and the prep, and there's a lot of factors that go into it. But once again, they're the things that you want to look for when you're designing a simple crown. So this surface, the profile here, buccal cusp, lingual cusps, and you want to make sure your marginal ridges are pretty similar to the other one. In terms of when it comes into the designing, the steps marking the margin, obviously we mark the margin. If you've got a HD photo, it will benefit you a lot when you're marking the margin. That's really going to help when we're designing it. So, pardon me. Now, after that's done, and we've marked our margin, now I'm going to go through that. That's an easy step. This is more just about the morphology and how to design teeth. The contact spacer and the path of insertion, 99% of the time the software is going to do it for you, so you don't have to adjust it, so that's okay there. And then in terms of it putting in this occlusal plane, it's going to do that automatically. You don't even need to do that. It can eliminate that. And then it's going to try and design the tooth for us. So these red patches, if I were to turn this on, that's letting us know the areas of the design that are going to be too thin. So you can thicken those up if you wanted to, using some of the tools here. Now, this tooth is going to start to change its shape, because obviously I've gone through and already designed this tooth. So it's going to go through the bit of a history of how I've designed it. So you'll see soon it's going to start moving around, and I'm going to, obviously I just change the tooth shape there. You can change the tooth shape here. You can also, if the dentist, or if you have done the pre-prep scan, you can use their existing design and do this copy tool just here. So that way it's really going to, so you can see I'm playing around with a few things here when I was choosing different tooth shapes. But you can copy off, let's say if you were to do a scan, a cheat sheet when you're to do a scan, if you were to basically to do a quadrant, if you were to do anywhere up to a 5, I'll basically just scan a 4, sorry. I'd scan anywhere from the 7 up to, say, the 2. This is from the 2 back to the 7 is all you're going to need if it's a 4, 5, 6, or 7. If you're going to venture it and do a 3, a canine, I would keep on scanning and I would scan around to the other canine so that if you needed to, you can duplicate that canine in the design software by using this tool here, the copy. So you click on the tooth that you wanted to copy, then click over here, and it will basically just do an exact replica of what the other side was. So that's a cheat sheet that you can do there if you did want to do 3s. So now this is the finished design that I did. So that's pretty much everything all lined up like as I spoke about. And then all the simple things like if I move my head, my mug, making sure it's not protruding through the opposing arch to make sure that, you know, we're not going to spend, 15 minutes in the chair, obviously adjusting contacts and stuff like that. We don't want to do that. In terms of our contact points in here you can see the little contact points there. If I turn this on the whole way, you can see I've got minus 0.2 contact there, and minus 0.2 and minus 0.3. So little contacts there. So if you wanted to thicken up those contact points, you can, using these basically, the simple tools. So let's say if you decided that you wanted 0.3, you can use that. Let's say I'm going to erase some of this by using this erase tool. But at 0.3, I want it to be 0.3 contact where I drew that. So it's going to adjust it, and you can see there that it's adjusted it to be a heavier contact at 0.3. I might find that a little bit too heavy. I do like 0.2, but 0.3 is most probably going to be suitable for some people. Depends on how much you're polishing it afterwards, to tell you the truth. You'd be able to polish some of that away, and then you'd most probably have perfect contact points. So that's our contact points. The only other thing that I'd say in designing a crown that you really want to be looking out for is your emergence profile, which you're not necessarily going to be seeing it as much on a 4, 5, 6, 7, but you're definitely going to notice your emergence profile, which is this part just down around the bottom here. You want to make sure that you're filling in the area and not creating a huge gap down here. So that's pretty normal there when we're designing your crown, but you really don't want to have like a huge gaping hole here that's going to be a food trap for clients. So you want to make sure your emergence profile is flowing out and then obviously filling up that space. So you can see before, obviously, that was the shape of their existing teeth. So you can see it was wearing there. So you can compare and you can determine off the existing crown or the existing tooth where you want to design as well by bringing that in. So overall, without going through the workflow, because I can do that on another video, these are the main things, once again, that I mentioned that you need to be looking out for as when you're designing. So once again, just a final recap. I'll just take away the scissors. So, and I'll take away the pre-prep scan, and let's just make our tooth fully clear. So we want to make sure that the outer buccal surface is sitting pretty similar to the buccal surfaces of the other teeth side by side to it. Once again, lingual, we want to make sure that the profile lingually looks pretty similar. You want to make sure that you've got a rough straight line running through your cusps, the buccal cusps. Likewise, if I were to eliminate the upper again, you want a pretty straight line running through like that. Now, once again, our existing tooth, you can see what it was like if I were to bring that in. So we've actually followed pretty closely to the design of the existing tooth. So we're not actually far off at all. So that's why it's always handy to have the pre-prep scan in there. And then in terms of contacts and whatnot, we can go through that. Everyone's got their own preferences. Some people prefer 0.02. Minus 0.02, other people prefer like minus 0.04, and then in the polishing they take it back a little bit. So that's obviously everyone's different preference. And then pretty much the only other things were marginal ridge, and then obviously profile coming out here and here. So every tooth is going to be different. And sometimes you're not going to make a tooth that does look pretty because of the position that everything's in, due to their existing anatomy and whatnot, and the opposing arch's anatomy. Sometimes you might look at it and go, "Eesh, that's not how I'd design a crown," which is right, but it fits in the spot, and it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, which is obviously protecting the tooth and hopefully looking better than a filling, which is obviously what we've got there. So that's it. That's my guide. I'll do another quick video at some stage regarding the step-by-step guide of how to do a tooth design. But long and short of it, they're the main ones. One final one, which is actually a really good one. Make sure that your buccal cusp and the buccal cusp on the opposing arch aren't edge to edge. If there's one thing that will give you problems, it will be that if this is edge to edge with the opposing arch's buccal cusps, they'll be biting down, and they're going to be biting their cheek non-stop and pinching it. So always try and make sure, look at the bite. If we're in a normal class 1 or whatnot, obviously make sure that our buccal cusp is overhanging a little bit the lower. Sometimes if they're in a crossbite, it might be the other way. But where you can, try not to have the buccal cusp edge to edge with the opposing arch, because as I said, they're going to be biting their cheek every week, and they're going to get really frustrated because it's just going to be time and time again. That's where we get issues with people pinching their cheeks. That's it. Enjoy. I'll do another workflow regarding and if I learn more, obviously I'll let you know. But that's the basics of tooth morphology. And I'll do another one regarding workflow on what to do with marking the margin and whatnot. So all good, guys. Take care, and I will see you all later. See ya.